Okay, so we are gonna finish up. We just have a couple more things to talk about for. Ooh, I'm gonna knock myself over for the Wounded Wolf. I wanted to talk about. So you guys know the plot pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should. We're going to be talking about it every story. And you've got the exposition, which is the beginning. That's the first flat part. And then this part is what?
The climax.
Rising action. And then up here, climax.
Falling
action.
Resolution.
Resolution. Yeah, resolution. Okay, so what is the difference between the climax and the resolution? Sometimes they're very close together, sometimes they're not. But what is the difference between the climax and a resolution? Ready? Speak up.
Sometimes the falling action can be longer, and sometimes it's not as long.
Well, that's true. Yeah, no, you're not wrong, but that's not quite the question I asked. What is the difference between the climax and the resolution? Johnny?
The climax is kind of like the turning point in the story.
Yes.
Where the resolution is kind of like the action dying down to the
Yeah. The resolution is what wraps it up. Does every story have a resolution?
No.
You ever heard the term cliffhanger?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So a cliffhanger doesn't have a good resolution. Now, sometimes you will have a book series, right? Like Harry Potter or The Hunger Games or The Lord of the Rings or the Alex Rider series or the Percy Jackson series or whatever. You'll have a book series or a movie series, right? And each book kind of has its own plot pyramid, but there's a larger plot pyramid that follows the whole series, right? And so you might have a resolution for one book or one movie, but it's not a complete resolution. It's like a partial resolution because you've got the overarching one. So yeah, Johnny, you're right. That's the difference. Is the climax is like this big turning point in the story. Whereas the resolution is sort of the presents all wrapped up and the bows tied and we're done. The package is neatly wrapped. Okay. What do the actions of Keeglow say about the Talklap wolves? So when we're talking about how the alpha wolf acted, what does that say about them as a family? Johnny?
It says that they know their position in like the family, so they know who's in charge.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
Okay. Brady, you got something to add?
Well, Keeglow, he gave
louder.
Keeglow gave Rocco, because
Mm-hmm.
he was wounded, he gave him some meat, so that shows that they care for each other.
Yes, that shows loyalty. It shows kind of sort of the actions that we talked about that Tuesday about how families treat each other. Okay, so that story is wrapped up. We're done, right? Rocco is here. He's well. He survived to live another day. On page 37, we have a little poem. This is a poem from the Osage tradition. Do you guys know what that means?
No.
Okay.
Is the Osage like a group of people?
Yes.
Familiar.
The Osage are a Native American tribe. Okay. So if you have a poem or a saying that is a traditional saying of a culture, what that means is that it's something that's been passed down. The actual author has been lost to antiquity. We don't know who specifically wrote it. We just know that this group of people has this poem or this story or this saying as part of their culture. That's what that means. Okay, so we don't know who wrote the poem originally. Obviously, it wasn't originally written in English. It was originally written in the language of the Osage people. Okay, it may not even have been written down. It may have been oral tradition the whole time because there were not a lot of Native American tribes who had written languages. Okay, so this poem is a little bit odd in that the grammar is a little bit backwards than from the way we would normally speak. I want you to think about Yoda in Star Wars. Okay? Now you guys know talks funny, he does. Right? This poem is written almost like that. Okay, so if you look at it, it's written obviously not originally in English because it doesn't follow regular English grammar. Yes.
So it's kind of just the Yoda language.
Well, no.
Think of Yoda, we must.
No. I just use that as an example. Okay, so we're on 37. A wolf, according to the Osage tradition. A wolf, I considered myself, but the owls are hooting, and the night I fear. What does that mean? Think about it for a second. I'm going to let you take a little time. Think about it for a second. What do you think it means? Johnny?
Is it about someone trying to overcome their fear of the night?
Well, it's a little bit bigger than that, but you're definitely on the right track. Ready?
It's basically saying how much courage.
Well, how much courage? What?
Of like, you know, the night.
Louder.
How much courage, like, for example, you have how fearful you are.
How fearful you are. Okay, so yes, we're on the right track. This poem is actually one of those things where, have you ever thought of yourself a certain way and then an experience came along and showed you that you weren't that way at all? That you were really there was something, you were really different than what you thought you were?
Probably. Probably.
So what this poem is saying is, I'm a wolf, right? I'm brave and I'm strong and I'm not scared of anything. But now I hear the owls and I'm a little bit scared. So it's talking about somebody that talks big, but in the end, they're just as frightened of everything as other people are. So it's kind of funny. Can you make a connection other than that it's about a wolf? Can you make a connection between this poem and our story, The Wounded Wolf? Because they have them put next to each other in our book. So do you think you can make a connection other than the fact that it's about wolves? Other than that, can you make a connection? Talon?
The owls are hooting.
The owls are hooting. Okay, so other than the animals, other than the names of the animals, can you make a connection with the theme? I guess is what I should be asking. A little bit better way to ask it. Okay, go ahead, Talon.
Scared.
Being afraid.
Well, more specifically, the night.
The nighttime.
So, a wolf probably isn't scared of the nighttime, but in this poem it says the night.
Well, wolves are not afraid of the night. Wolves are they're not fully nocturnal, but they're not animals that are afraid to go around at night for sure. Yeah. So there's this idea that we all have something to fear, right? Even the bravest of us, right? Because if you or I were to meet a wolf out in the woods, we would be scared. Even if you had a gun with you, you would still be a little bit scared. Because, can I get to my gun and can I get a shot off before the wolf attacks me? Because wolves are quite dangerous. But even wolves have things they're afraid of.
Wait, they immediately attack?
No. Well, they might not. It depends on how hungry it is.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah. So everybody has something to fear, right? Even the bravest among us. And so I think that's really where the connection comes, because Rocco, in our story, had something to be afraid of, right? If he hadn't made it to the shelter rock, if Kiglo had not brought him food, those kinds of things, right? He had something to be afraid of. The Osage were a group of Native Americans. They lived along the Osage and the Missouri rivers in the area of the U.S. that we now call Missouri. They were divided into two clans, Sky People and Earth People, and they lived on opposite sides of the road with their houses. Just kind of some interesting things about them. The Osage men were hunters, and the women were the ones that butchered the animals and tanned the hide and prepared the meat. So the men would go out and get the meat, and the women would take care of the butchering and the fixing of the meat.
I love the money too.
The Osage tribe could be identified by their hair and their clothing. Men would shave their heads except for a tuft of hair that went from the top of the forehead to the back of their neck. We would call that a mohawk, which is not quite exactly the same as like the Mohawk Indians had a mohawk. That's where we get their style. But the Osage, it wasn't like high up. It was just a tuft like this. The government took more than 1 million acres of land from the Osage eventually. And so there are possibly around 18,000 Osage tribe members today that can prove that they're part of the Osage tribe. Most of them live in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, which is where their reservation is. Just a little bit of background on that. Doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about, but I thought you guys might find it interesting. Okay, so our theme for the Wounded Wolf. What is our theme for the Wounded Wolf? What do you think the theme of this story was? What do you think? Brady?
Courage and perseverance.
Courage and perseverance? Those might be secondary themes. Not the main
What are secondary
themes. Not the main themes. Johnny?
I'm not raising
Oh, you're not? You're just stretching. Any ideas?
What are secondary?
Themes that are there, but they're not the main theme. Yeah. What have we been talking about? We've been using the word pack a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And family. Yeah.
Trust.
What?
Trust.
Oh, you're close. Trust is close.
Oh, I can't find the word for it.
Trustworthy.
It is the theme that we're mainly going to be.
A relationship.
My face right in the camera there.
A relationship.
Is family. So usually we have like a couple of words that we use to sum up a theme. In this case, family. When we think about the wolf pack, right? But also the second one is loyalty. Loyalty. Because they were loyal to each other. That's a theme over and over again, right? Rocco is loyal to his pack. Keglo is loyal to his pack, loyal to Rocco. Even when things are hard, they take care of each other. Secondary themes, perseverance, courage, those kinds of things. But the main one for this, the main themes for this are family and loyalty. Now, I want you to turn to page 39 in your book, please. Um, 39, we've got some questions. Now, I want us to kind of go over those together, but then you're going to take some time and you're going to write out answers yourself, okay? So, these are kind of the first four questions are just a quick review. So, a quick review of the story. First of all, what does a wolf look like?
A dog.
A dog. Okay. What else, Johnny?
It has fur and it has 4 legs.
His fur and it has 4 legs. Brady?
It has a tail.
Gray, brown, and maybe colored close to cork.
Okay. Gray or brown. Okay. What else? Looks like a dog, Talon said. Yeah. That's basically it. It's got sharp, pointy teeth. Brady?
It's bigger than some other things like it. Is it like?
Well, yeah, it's big dog. It's bigger than not all dogs, but it's bigger than most
I
dogs.
think it's bigger than a coyote. I don't know.
Oh yes, wolves are much larger than coyotes.
They're big.
Yeah.
Furry.
Okay.
Take it out.
So now number 2 is in 6 sentences or less, tell the story. Can you summarize the story? Now, it won't have any detail, right? But how would you summarize this story in 6 sentences or less?
Just write what happens
Yeah.
and use like comments to put more information.
Well, no, because you want it to be a short summary. So like, okay, go ahead, Brady.
I'm gonna have to think about it as long as this.
Well, then don't raise your hand if you're not ready
Well, I
to
can't-
answer. No.
I can't remember anything.
If we're having a discussion and you're not actually ready to give an answer, don't raise your hand. Okay, because then that means everybody else has to wait on you and somebody else might lose their turn to talk. So, you this sort of question would be, this is how I would want you to answer this. You would say, there was this thing and they did this thing and they did this thing and they did this thing, the end. Okay? It's a summary. Short summary. Okay, Brady, you have an actual answer now.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So Roko.
Louder, though, so we can hear you on the video.
So Roko is wounded, and he, along his way, he's trying to make it to Shelter Rock, and he's going across, and he has things that he has to, I guess, in a way, persevere through, because like the animals.
It's already too long.
Oh,
I mean, it's like just 2 sentences, but I'm talking short.
okay.
A summary is short. Okay? So do you understand what I'm don't fill in details and make the sentences super long. Like we want this to be very short. So how would you summarize, how would you retell this story? If I said, what's this story about? What would you say in a very short little paragraph? What would you say?
Roko got hurt by a moose.
Roko got hurt by a moose. There's a little more to it than that. You would need to add a couple more things. But yeah, that's a good start. Roko got hurt by a moose. Or what was it, a moose or a caribou?
Caribou.
Caribou. It was a caribou. Right, because we had this conversation because caribou are between elk and moose in size, I think. Did anybody ever look that up?
No.
Did we ever look up what the size of a caribou is?
No.
We need to do that.
I forget. I'm on a computer now.
Okay.
I forget everything.
All right. Talon, you have your hand raised or you're just stretching?
Stretching.
Just stretching. Okay. All right. So, does everybody understand what you need to do with number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, list the animals that are following Roko. That's easy. You don't even have to write that in complete sentences. What are the animals that are following Roko? Give me one. Talon?
Raven.
Raven. Johnny?
Oh.
Owl. For a second I thought you said elm, and I was like, that's a tree, and trees don't follow people. Owl. Boy, I need to clean out my ears today, don't I? Hope.
The fox.
The fox.
If Shakespeare wrote the story, then the tree would be falling.
You remembered from Macbeth, yes, till Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. All right, and Brady?
Mine was already taken, but I was gonna say white fox.
The fox. What about the...
Bear.
Well, the grizzly wasn't really following, but he did attack him later.
Yeah.
Or he
but
tried.
wasn't actually
Yeah,
following
but he
him.
wasn't one of the ones that was following him, okay? What voice does the author use to tell the story? Brady? Not Brady. Brady does not have his hand up. Johnny?
Third person.
Third person. So now you've got the first 4 questions. We've already talked about them all. Okay? So that should be easy for you. For the section that's called focus.
Oh, doing this? Okay.
Okay? For the section that's called focus, the first question says, the wolves in Keeglo's pack have special qualities. List 3 of them. What are some of the qualities? Now remember, we talked about anthropomorphism, where we attribute human qualities to things that are not human. So, what kinds of qualities do we see in these wolves? Talon?
Their body language.
Okay, their body language. That's a characteristic, but it's not. We're talking more some abstract things. So, Johnny?
Loyalty.
Loyalty is one of them. So, do you see where we are now? Okay. Brady?
Their way of communication towards how
That is a characteristic, not a quality. Okay, so something like loyalty is where we're going with this. Johnny?
They understand their position in the family, so they each have their own role.
That's true. They do have their own role.
Yes.
So you might call that cooperation.
Yeah.
They cooperate because each has their job. Brady?
Courage and bravery, kind of the same thing.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Courage and bravery.
Courage and bravery, right? So you could talk about these qualities that the wolves have. Let's see. Number 2, in the following paragraph, 4 words are in bold type. Which characters do they refer to? Rewrite the paragraph using the characters' names. So there's this paragraph here. Rocco sees the shelter rock. He strains to reach it. He stumbles. The ravens move in closer. The white fox boldly walks beside him. Ha ha ha, he yaps. The snowy owl flies ahead, alights, and waits. So what you're going to need to do with that paragraph is you're going to replace the words he, him, and he with the animal that it's referring to. Okay, so I'm going to do the first one for you as an example so that you know how to do this, okay? Rocco sees the shelter rock. Rocco strains to reach it. Okay, yeah. So do you understand what you need to do with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the number 3. When you read, the writer uses strong descriptions and animal sounds to tell Rocco's story. This is a very descriptive story. There's a lot of imagery in this story, a lot of sensory details. Okay, so for instance, the ravens scream and peck and stab at him. The white fox says, ha ha ha. The snowy owl joins the death watch. When you read about Rocco's wounds, you want him to somehow get better and survive. That's one of the things this author is kind of leading you toward, is feeling sympathy for Rocco. How do you feel when you read about the behavior of the other characters? Do you want them to survive?
Nope.
So tell me yes or no and why in a few sentences. So you're going to take a few sentences, not here, not right now, not verbally. We're going to do this on paper, but I'm going over the question because I want to make sure everybody understands it. Okay, so you're going to tell me, how do you feel about that owl? How do you feel about that raven? How do you feel about that fox? Do you want them to survive too? Or are you like, I don't care about them, I only care about Rocco? And if so, you got to tell me why. That's always my big thing. You got to tell me why. Okay, so
You can't have an opinion, a good opinion, unless you say why.
yeah, that's right. You can have any opinion you want in my class about a piece of literature, but you have to be able to back it up. Okay, so we have not a lot of time left in class. Really just 4 minutes left.
Oh.
So you could probably get started on this. So what we're going to do is tomorrow in class, we are going to have a work day where you will work on this assignment. And then if you finish, it will be a free read day. Okay?
Alright.
Everybody understand?
Are you gonna work on feral things? Because you said you have.
Yes, we are. All right. So you may use, actually, let's go ahead and stop here and we'll go ahead and get started early on history. Okay?
Good.